Welcome back to the Sapphire section here on the set review. Starting off with Anna Braving the Storm. 2 cost 1/4. If you have another hero, it's 2 lore. 2 cost 2 lore character at 1/4 is not the worst stat line. Losing to Mimfox is one thing, but 4 health is definitely nothing to sneeze at. Solid 3, kind of spawning in a Heroes Matter archetype, I think, with some of these Sapphire cards, which is pretty cool. Next up, we have Anna in her more true-hearted form. When this character quests, your other hero characters get +2. So it quests for 2 on its own, buffs your other heroes. Huge amount of lore can be gained with these. And yeah, this one's I think a 3.5 based off of the build around aspect of it. It's likely a 3 in most cases, but if you build around it, it's one of the more strong cards you have. And if we look at set 3, one of the Dalmatians there was a 4 cost 2/3 that when it quested, if you have a certain amount in play, they'll get bonus 1 lore. So the fact that this one doesn't really require you to have a certain number of characters, it just gives your other heroes ones additional lore, and also is inkable versus non-inkable and a little bit more resilient to cards like Smash. Solid card. Cool for build around. Probably a 3, but could be a build around 4. Next up, we have Ariel, Treasure Collector. Ward, if you have more items than each opponent, this is a 5 lore character. That's a huge amount of character. There's not many things that have 5 lore in this game, and the ones that do, we don't really take lightly. The condition of having to have more items in your opponent is probably going to be not terribly hard. It's okay in a sense that as a deck you can build it with the Emerald staff that makes all your things that are uninkable, which works well for this card because it is uninkable. It works well with Popsicle because they all replace themselves. So I'm giving this a solid 3. Could be 3.5, also just because of the build around aspect of it. Making this inkable and playing cards like Fishbone Quill, hard to answer threat. Questing for 5 is no joke, and even with a card like Shield of Virtue, see Ruby Sapphire with this combination, making this not able to be challenged, and 2 turns is really all you need to get out of this, and with Lucky Dime, game's over. Hard to kill, 5 lore, could be very strong. Pretty happy with it. Aurora, in a language I can't go through too well. So I think this one falls a little bit short. I'm giving it 3 stars. It's a shift to Aurora. It gives your items wards, so they can't be banished, which is kind of cool. It also gives your items the ability to exert beyond their normal abilities, to look at the top card of your deck and put it to the bottom. So you get to, in Magic terms, scry 1. Look at the top card, put it to the bottom. It's not the best stat line, and shifting, there's no 1 cost Aurora. I don't believe that this can quest is a 2 with. There are 2 cost Auroras, I think. But I'm not too excited to shift with this, and this is a bit worse than Flavor Sham. I can see some situations where you want to build around items, but I think it's just a bit worse than even Grammatala from set 2 or set 3. So lower end of 3, maybe even 2.5. It's cute. It's just not going to see much play. Speaking of Auroras with Ward, this one kind of lets you shift onto it, but it's a 1/3 with Ward. Not ideal. I don't think it matters too much as far as shifting, because the other card you kind of need to have a critical mass of items in play, and by turn 2 you're not really doing much with it anyway. Not great, but a 2 cost 1/3 Ward I don't think is something we've had before. Maybe that stat line matters, but not too thrilled with it. Dang who? Dang you. So 5 cost 3/5, 2 lore, Fall Spray to Medusa. Your other villain characters get support. We saw set 2 Alice, 3 cost Alice, which is a legend, which is a better version of this. It gives everything support and has the ability to gain a bunch of lore at a much lower cost. Doesn't see much of any play. This is a 2.5 rating, not going to be played. Kind of moving on. Fa Li, Mulan's mother. The 1/3s that don't have a shift line, I don't really expect to see very much of. Cute that we have it, not really playable. Even in limited, I don't think it's that great. One of the cards I was kind of disappointed about, and I know I'll get some hate on it, is Flounder, Collector's Champion. There's no 1 cost Aurora, and I don't like the fact that with the characters that have a base cost and the ability to be 1 cheaper, don't have a Dream to Live. There's this one, and I think the dog that we looked at earlier, the 4/3, costs 1 less if you have. They're 3 costs. They cost 1 less if you have a certain character in play. There's no 1 cost Ariel. There was no 1 cost Prince Eric, so they don't have an ability to live the dream of playing it a 2 cost 2/2 with support with 2 lore, which is something you can't do currently. So the fact that there's no Dream to Live, I'm kind of unimpressed by it. 2 lore or 2 stars, it's not great. Hades, 4 cost 3/6. One lore. I mean, in set 1, I would have been head over heels for this card because just the stats were pretty impressive at the time. I think I contemplated playing Pumbaa, a 3/6 for 4 in Sapphire Amber. 3/6 would have been amazing. Yeah, that's Maleficent stats, really. The blue one, or I guess is that a queen? I don't remember. But this is fine. Fine for limited. Not really much for constructed. Maybe 2 sets ago we would have been happy with it, but not great. Hans, Noble Scoundrel. So one of the more impressive cards, I think. 3 cost 3/2, which is probably better than a 2/3. 2 lore character, only because of the context of Madame Mim. When you play this, if you control a princess or a queen, you gain a lore. So the ability to gain lore outside of combat, pretty huge. We've seen the Annas so far. Both Annas are princesses, and there's a fair few other ones. I've done a bit of research in Sapphire alone, but also other colors as well. This one's getting 3.5. This is potentially very strong. Again, anything that gains lore outside of combat is something that should be considered, or by side combat I mean questing, should be considered for playability, and definitely a card that'll slot right into any type of deck that has a bunch of princesses such as queens. You can even play the 1 cost Amber Queen, but yeah. If a princess queen's in play, yes. So this will trigger off of even your opponent's things. It doesn't need necessarily you to have one. If a princess or a queen character is in play, gain a lore. So your opponent plays one out, you get a lore for free anyway. Iduna, Caring Mother. I think that's how you pronounce her name. 4 cost 3/3 Grammatala. Kind of the moms of this game seem to be things that if they die, they go to your inkwell. It's not great. I'd rather play Grammatala than this 2.5. Fine for limited, I'm sure. Like the art, kind of seeing this character more so would have been cool in the movies. I'm sure at some point we'll revisit them. But the parent story was always nice, I think. But yeah, medium card, not great. John Silver. Let's get into. I did play Maui in set 1, the 8 cost 8/8 quest for 3 steel one, because at that time stats were a bit important, and in steel mirror matches you had no way to deal a bunch of damage. You could only Tinkerbell, smash, grab your sword, or anything like that, and it could never really die. But not really what you're looking for in this game anymore. Cool card. I like that it exists. Cool artwork there with the Mega Man Blaster thing going on. But yeah. Moving along here. Olaf, Carrot Enthusiast. I'm a carrot enthusiast. That's my choice of midnight snack, actually. Shift, discard an item. I don't really want to be discarding too many items here to get this shifted into play, but it has the option to. Whenever he quests, each of your other character gets +1. So he really just supports your entire board for 1. 3 cost 1/4 lore. Not terrible. Reasonable stats for that. The support aspect of it could be good. I'm giving this 2.5, 3, around there, right below 3. Not really exciting, but it could work with maybe in a blue purple deck with a lot of Floodborns that you want to play to any buff cards like Blue Fairy, and just having the ability to put a bunch of strength to play off a shift potentially, which again I don't think you're gonna be shifting this too much, but you can. Is pretty important, and the added bonus of strength is something I mentioned earlier about how support doesn't really buff the amount of strength you have. This does. This gives 1 to everything, so it's almost like an Anthem effect. So it could be played, but not really looking to try it out immediately. Maybe in the context of the format, we'll see. It's a set 1 hey, but Olaf, not really great. Never was really playable, kind of worse than just a 2/2 for a 1, but kind of okay. I like the art, except that he's holding Kristoff's hat. Uh-oh. What happened to Kristoff? Pascal, he grew up. When you play it, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put them back in any order. Could be good. 2.5 stars is about where I put it. It could work well with some of the Madrigals, Bruno specifically. Can work with the Amber Mulan that sings songs when you quest with it, but not too exciting to play. It could maybe help you, but unlikely. There's not really ways to shuffle. In Magic, there's some ways to shuffle your deck pretty consistently, so if you have the ability to look at the top 3 cards, you can shuffle them away for relatively low cost to gain an advantage that way, but not here, thankfully. Prince Philip, another thing that those Emerald Princes can shift onto. An interesting card by itself. 3 cost 1/3 with questing for 2 with support. Giving 1 strength isn't great. It's not that much, but it's fine. When your character is chosen for support, however, it gets resist. I kind of wish this card had resist itself, because the stat line is pretty susceptible to a lot of things, like a kind of a either a Rafiki or a hook on turn 1, or it just kind of gets swallowed up in the mid game. Supporting 1's not too important, but the resist could be. I'm giving this 2.5. I mean, maybe just on stats alone, it kind of gets there. 3 cost 1/3 with support. that's worse than most things. It's a 2.5. Not exciting. Rapunzel. So it's a 5-cost 3/5. If you have Pascal, it gets ward. So Pascal cares about you having a character in play to gain evasive, the purple 1-cost Pascal. This one gives itself ward to protect. 5-cost 3/5 with ward might have been good enough. It's basically a Cusco in that sense, but it's a little conditional. It requires you to play Pascals, which aren't always the best, and purple-blue isn't. It's a color pair that's kind of cool. Hasn't really broken through as far as playability, I think, yet. Maybe it will, but fine card. It's a 2.5. It's a build around that doesn't have that high of a payoff. The lore is nice, but not exceedingly great. Scuttle. Expert on humans. Indeed he is. So when you play this character, look at the top 4 cards, reveal an item, put it to your hand. I think this is a 3.5. It's a solid character. It is going to see play in a lot of decks, and I think that if you actually just change the text to 2-cost 1/3, when you play it, look at the top 4 cards of your deck for a Fishbone Quill and put it to your hand. Otherwise, put the rest on the bottom. I think that would be played. Being able to consistently find Fishbone Quill is one of the biggest variance reducers in the Ruby or in the Sapphire base items decks that want Fishbone Quill early, and just the ability to find that as well as Popsicle and other things is all icing on the cake. But if this literally just looked for Fishbone Quill and nothing else, it would be playable. And that being said, I expect to see a lot of play. The same rules for cards like this, like Ariel, don't apply to this, where Ariel is pretty bad if it doesn't happen. That deck just really cares about very specific cards at very specific turns. And Scuttle increasing your odds by a significant margin. I'd even say you're up at the 80% range to find a Fishbone Quill on turn 3 with this card in your deck. Maybe I'd have to run the numbers, but probably up there. It's a solid character, and it's going to see play in a lot of decks. The only issue is going to be can they fit this card into their 60 to make it worth it. And I think they probably should try, but we'll see. Sisu, Wise Friend, Vanilla Dragon, 2. Kronk hasn't been playable really, and we've seen that for a long time. So moving on, nothing to see there. Queen, I don't know the name of it full. It's still in a foreign language for me, but has the ability to exert, to look at the top 4 cards of your deck for an item, put it to your hand. So basically a Scuttle, it just has to exert to do it. So that's a little bit worse, having to survive a turn and exert to do that effect. However, if it's an item with 3 or less cost, it goes directly to play, which could be really good. And one of the cards I'm looking forward to using this with is actually Shield of Virtue, because Shield of Virtue can both be found off this effect and also let you use it an additional time. And the item doesn't enter play exerted, so you can't find a shield off this and then use the shield to untap this again, so you can't keep going. But it does let you kind of really find a lot of pieces, and it could be cool to reuse a bunch. And I think if you're just trying to find Popsicle effects, you'd probably want to play Scuttle instead as a value card, because you get the immediate value out of this having to live for a turn. But it's fine. Solid 3.5, I'd say. Build around could be cool with Shield of Virtue effects, but it's fine. It's not the greatest legend. It's kind of weird that it's legendary to me. Transformed Chef. Sure. 4-cost 3/3, heal 2. There's much better effects along the curve. 2.5, fine for limited. Nothing to see there. Another legend, Triton, Champion of Atlantica. So shift 6. There's a couple of Tritons which I think are in this set and in the previous sets. The previous ones aren't very good. They're overcosted and you don't really want to shift on. Inkable, 7/9, massive. It's huge. One thing this thing does is works pretty well with Ursala's, whichever the emerald location that shrinks their lore. This thing shrinking their strength for each location you have in play does protect your locations pretty well. The awkward part about it is your locations have to survive the turn or be played after this effect, which if it's played after, they can just get rid of this in some way. It is hard to do for a lot of decks. It is large, but some decks can deal with it and just ignore it and move on. But shrinking their strength could be really important if your other locations shrunk their lore, like the emerald location, that if something's there and you have an exotic character, it shrinks the lore by 1. So there is a potential kind of lockout strategy with cards like this and maybe Mother Gothel from set 1 that stops your opponents from being able to quest if it's exerted. That shrinking their strength could be really important to keeping those kind of cards alive. I don't think this is great. It could see play. I'm giving it a 3 just because of the potential build around, and it could be really good in that situation. All of these build arounds, when I say build around, is the same problem of it's going to fall short to cards like Be Prepared. All the build arounds are just going to fall flat on that card. And when I build decks, I'm going to build 100 decks that are going to be very poor against decks like Ruby Amber, Ruby Sapphire, and stuff like that, because they're all pressured and that deck doesn't really care about text boxes. It just kind of kills things and moves on. This card is one of those things that you need to care about the text boxes. And this is pretty cool in context of playing a giant board state. And even a multiplayer or something like that, this is really cool in that sense too, where your board's not constantly getting destroyed. But it's an interesting build around. Maybe there's a deck for it. I'm not certain, but we'll have to see as the format develops. But could be good. But I'm interested to see how it plays out. Triton, Discerning King. So banish one of your items, gain 3 lore. This one I'm actually interested in. This one's potentially powerful. This is getting a 3.5 for me. It is uninkable. I'll start there. And you do need to banish an item, but the ability to potentially repeat the effect with some of the Ruby untapped cards, or just the fact that it's a 3-cost 3/3 that can gain 3 lore, is pretty impressive. A cool build around, potentially very strong. We do have cards that quest for 3 in Sapphire that cost 3 as well. There's the Caterpillar, which is a 1/3 for 3 that's inkable. Quest for 3 from set 2. Never saw play really. 3 strength is really important against foxes and stuff like that. But mainly the ability to ready this again, maybe in Ruby Sapphire. May not have enough pieces right now to make that work because some of the Ruby items aren't great. Mainly the other colors to pair with ones that draw cards aside from Popsicle or Steel and Emerald from this set. But we'll see. This long term could be very powerful if we get more readying effects that are items that maybe draw a card or something like that. I wouldn't be thrilled to see a ton of more items that draw cards, but we've seen 2 this set, which we'll get to one of my least favorite cards in the set soon. But yeah. Cool card, definitely a build around, kind of cool to see if it works out, and nice shift target, I guess. Triton Young Prince, 3/4, can challenge without having evasive. One of your locations is banished, put that card into your inkwell. So that's pretty cool. Normally the downside of locations is they just get banished, but this one kind of saying, hey, if you do, I just get them as ink. There's the Montanui, the Sapphire location from set 3, which if your characters are that are there get banished, then they go to the inkwell. Kind of works well with if you want to kind of ramp in a different way that isn't just throwing away cards and relying on Flavor Sham. So this is a cool location build around. I like it. I'm not certain how good it is. I'm giving it a 3 because it's potentially, good at defending your locations in some way, makes them think twice about it. It's more likely not as good at that, probably 2.5 overall, but not the worst body. Can kill Minnie Mouse Surfer. That's a plus to it. So cool card. I like that it's inkable. Tuck. Another Tuck. 2/3 Tuck seems to be the way to go. 2, maybe 1, nothing to shift with, nothing to do here. Not really exciting, but cute card. Dig a little deeper. I think this is one of the worst ones that I've seen. Finding 2 specific cards in the top 7 is fine, but there's no real combo deck in this game that really wants to piece 2 cards together like that. And singing 8 is really hard in Sapphire, I think, because I think Sapphire is one of the colors that actually just has characters that you want to have an immediate action, like Flavor Sham, or you want specific cards that are just random fodder. So with Sapphire so far, you're not looking for specific cards, you're just looking for a bunch of them. So this card doesn't really fit with any of those there for me. This is probably one of the worst ones. Give me it a 2. I don't think this is going to see much play. I think the other ones are actually all better than it, all the singular ones. Yeah, not impressed. I don't know the real name of this card. Gleaner, as it is in French, I believe. I'm bad with European languages, forgive me. So it's banish an item. That item's controller gets 2 lore. This is a really scary card. This is up there with me. This is a 3.5 star card. It's not quite format defining, but basically with this card, just paying 1 and getting rid of one of your Popsicle effects to just get 2 lore is a crazy cleaning, like end game effect. Imagine this with Triton and with the Triton we just looked at that can destroy items to gain lore, and this you have a bunch of burst potential with lore gain. This is a scary card, making a heavy item build with Flavor Sham even more aggressive, and definitely can ignore some of the late game things that may be in a lot of decks and just let you just win the game out of nowhere. Imagine just going from I have one thing in play, I go Popsicle plus Popsicle, and then I just kill both of them, and all right, that's 4 lore, go. And sure, I'm down a couple cards, but in a whole new world deck, I don't really care too much about the extra cards being gone. It's a very scary card potentially. And in a pinch, it can kill your opponent's item if you don't care too much about their lore. Giving them 2 lore right now, it can kill their things. 1 cost item removal is fine. I mean, the 2 lore may or may not matter, but when it does matter, it really matters. And when they have a large character in play, not necessarily Tamatoa because they can rebuy their Lucky Dime if they have that out, But this can take care of a Lucky Dime in a pinch. It gives them 2 lore, but maybe that is worth it in some cases than not. Say they don't have anything in play and they have a dime developed. You can kill it, and then potentially draw on Tomato has to wait a full turn before maybe gaining 5 or 6 lore. Who knows? But strong card, potentially scary, is a build around, but it is a very good build around because it's a very immediate effect. I like that we're getting a lot of instantaneous lore gain in this set, and it makes other colors, again, some of the control decks too, like Ruby Sapphire, have to play a bit more quickly with their cards. And yeah. Seldom as they seem, this card just not. This is a 1.5. Only reason it's not a 1 is because it's inkable. This is just not happening. Nope. Moving on. Cool art. I like the dancing. Treasures Untold. I don't feel like singing 6 is worth getting 2 popsicles back, so 2, it's inkable. And Tamatoa costs 2 more and you get a giant body in play, so maybe not even a 2. Only because it's inkable is it a 2. Field of Ice. When you play a character, it gets resistant until the start of your next turn. Helps protect a little bit, but I don't think this is good. 1.5, only a 1 because it's not inkable, or because it's inkable. That's one reason it's not a 1. The logic here is that you're looking to protect your characters against damage-based removal, but you're throwing away a full card to do that effect. More than likely, it's going to be the fact that if you'd played something more relevant on this turn that you played Field of Ice, and that was killed instead of what you wanted to protect with Field of Ice, your card you wanted to protect with Field of Ice is more likely to survive the removal they had, with that card being the target of the removal than the resist one really mattering. That's the logic behind why I think this card just isn't good at all. I'd rather play an impactful card that they care about on turn 3 than something that can maybe protect my turn 4 play a little bit better. Sure, you can say you play this and you play a bunch of characters that now can't die to grab your sword, but that's, again, I'd rather just have another threat to play than this thing. I wouldn't play this card. It's ink, so it's immediately 1.5. Moving on, Great Stone Dragon. Enters play Exerted for probably power level concerns. Put a character from your discard into your Inkwell Exerted. Interesting card. I'm giving it a 3 because I think there's decks that can emerge with it. It's a very different card than Popsicle. Popsicle wants you to ramp immediately and get up to bigger parts of the game. And this one, and Popsicle encourages you to draw a ton of cards because you're actually throwing away cards in your hand to make that more relevant. This card makes use of your already depleted resources, all the things you use already with characters. It's fine. It wouldn't be played in the same decks as Quill, I don't believe. But there's a chance that there's some decks that don't want Quill because they can't afford to give up that many cards in their hand that may want this, that play a bunch of characters. Yes, you can't use it immediately, but ones that want to go long and can maybe have effects later and later into the game and build up that way, this could be played. I think it's a potentially good build around an alternative to Popsicle, and it just shows how good Fishbone Quill, how good Fishbone Quill really is Fishbone Quill is an absurd card, one of the best Sapphire cards, if not the best Sapphire card, second only to maybe Popsicle currently. But it just shows that cards can be a little bit worse than that and still be playable. And I think that we're still a wide span away from touching Fishbone Quill as far as cards being played, but it's a good alternative, and it can be played in different decks that maybe can't afford to play Fishbone Quill. But yeah, who knows? I'm super, super happy. I'm going to give this card 1.5. Not very good, but I am so thrilled that this is not inkable. If this was inkable, I'd be so mad. If this was an inkable card and all the Ruby Sapphire decks could play this card just as free fodder that they could ink, but occasionally kill your 4-strength character with a Medusa with this in play, I would be so mad. I'd be so mad. I would be calling for that Medusa ban more than anything else. But this card is not inkable, so it is unlikely that it will see play. But if this was inkable, I'd be incredibly mad. It's not very good as it is. Thank goodness. Because the repeatable effect to make your opponent's characters vulnerable to Medusa that should not be would be so mad. So mad. I'm off it. So glad it's not inkable. I don't think it's very good. Maybe unlimited. Who knows? Don't care. All right. Ariel's Grotto. Costs 2 to play. Again, apologies for the images there. They are not set up in my viewer properly. So it's 2 costs to play, 2 costs to move to, has 7 willpower, doesn't passively gain any lore. If you have 3 items to play, it gets 2 lore. I think this is terrible. 1.5. I mean, sure, you can play a bunch of items, but even if this was 2 cost 2 with 2 lore, it would only be, and you have to have 3 somethings in play, like characters or items or whatever. It's still not great. I don't understand really. We saw some characters have the ability to get bonuses when they're at locations in set 3. We've not seen any character that says bonus while at location in this set, and that's kind of disappointing because a lot of these things just don't have text. So the moving characters to them kind of doesn't do anything. And I wish there was more of that in the game. But yeah, not good. Conditionally gains lore sometimes. This card's much better. 3 costs to play, 1 cost to move to, and 8 willpower, and has 1 lore. So it's 3 cost, 8 health, 1 lore character. Whenever a character quests while here, remove up to 2 damage, and if it's a hero, move it to 3. Really good at healing up your characters, honestly. I think this card's potentially fine. 2.5, maybe even 3. If you really want a bunch of locations, this is one to use. 8 willpower is a ton. Passive lore per turn is really nice. It's hard to challenge into. It doesn't die to Fox plus Crab. Like that interaction is usually 7 strength coming at it, so it fades that by itself, which is relevant. And being able to remove damage of things that quest there could matter. Yeah. Cards are zoomed in, and they don't quite have the ability to see all the cost, so apologies for that. The deck builders, the deck viewer is not perfect for this here, but best I could do with that. Locations are a little bit rough, but it costs 3 to play, 1 to move to, and it has 8 willpower with a passive of 1 lore. So fine card, not thrilling, but it could be played. This one's fine. That's going to do it here for Sapphire. We're going to go to our last one here. Steel is up next.